Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. A lot of times people tend to ask me, can you suggest a plant that is easy to care for, that is low maintenance, is not very finicky about humidity and temperature? So here is the answer. This is a Syngonium. I will put the botanical name on the screen. It is also called as the Arrowhead vine. Now the plant type is vine and the mature size can reach anywhere from 3 to 6 feet tall and 1 to 2 feet in width. Now the soil, what it prefers is slightly neutral to acidic. The bloom time is during the summers, but you'll rarely tend to find any flowers. It's very rare for it to flower. Usually the flower is white in color. Now this plant is native to South America and Mexico. It's an extremely easy to grow plant. Whether you want to grow it indoors, you want to grow it in the bathroom, you want to grow it in your office, on your office desk, you can grow it anywhere. You can even grow it in soil. If you want to keep the roots semi-submerged in water, you can do that as well. But guys, do not put this plant completely in water. It's not an aquatic plant. It can grow semi-submerged in water, but the leaves have to be above the water. I remember last time I told someone that this plant will do well in water. The person happened to put it in the aquarium. It is not an aquatic plant. It will not do quite well. The leaves will start to rot. You can keep the roots in a glass bowl with some leca. It will do quite well. Let's talk a little bit in detail because, as I said, this is a very easy to grow plant, but definitely it requires the basic care. That's what we are going to be talking about. Let's start with light. Now Arrowhead vine likes bright light but not direct sunlight. Diffuse light is best. A harsh afternoon sunlight can burn or bleach the leaves, so you have to be extremely careful. Now there are a lot of varieties in Syngoniums. The variegated ones, or the ones that have color, can handle a little bit of morning direct sunlight, while the deeper green varieties are better to be kept in indirect bright light. Now talking about the soil mix, I tend to use the same soil mix, which is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. They prefer a well draining soil. As I said, if you are putting it in water, you'll have to use leca, but you cannot let the soil stay soggy wet, otherwise it will get rotted. A lot of people tend to get confused because they think that this plant does very well in water. So what they do is they tend to use a container or a pot without drain hole and they fill up the soil with water. Please don't do that. If you want to grow it in water, you will have to use leca or you'll have to use pebbles. But if you are growing it in soil, the soil should not be soggy wet. It should be well draining. So you can choose either, whether you want to grow it in water or you want to grow it in soil. Now talking about watering, ensure that you water your Arrowhead vine regularly during the summers because that's when they are in their growing period. Apart from that, the environment is very dry. The soil tends to dry faster. So do check your soil mix. Again, this completely depends upon your environment and climate. Ensure that the soil is not completely bone dry. Do not keep them underwatered for a very long time. Otherwise, they will start to dry out. Maintain a very slight amount of moisture but not soggy wet soil. Now talking about temperature and humidity, they usually tend to do quite well anywhere between 15 degrees Celsius up to 35-36 degrees Celsius as well. If you are from a place wherein the temperatures are very high during the winters as well as during the summers, then what you can do is you can get your plant indoor and grow it indoor. Because they are not very fussy about humidity, they will do quite well in average humidity as well. You typically do not need to purchase a humidifier just for this plant. This plant will do quite well in a very average household humidity as well. Now talking about fertilizers, feed your Arrowhead vine once a month with liquid fertilizer during the summers. During winters, please don't add any fertilizers because that's when the plant tends to go dormant. You will not be adding fertilizers and you will reduce your watering during the winters because that's when they tend to go into a partial dormancy. During summers, they will be in their growing period, so you can use a diluted form of liquid fertilizer and your watering frequency will also be a little bit more during the growing period. Now talking about propagation, it's pretty simple to propagate your Arrowhead vine. You can do a root division, you can do a stem cutting. I have already made a video on it. I think the root division is the better method. I will also share the link in the description below. You can check it out. It's pretty simple to propagate your Arrowhead vine or the Syngoniums. Talking about pest issues, Arrowhead vine or the Syngonium is relatively resistant to pests on its own. However, dwelling in the home amongst other plants can expose it to pests like spider mites, mealybugs, aphids, and scale insects. If you happen to notice any of this, you can go with any organic solution that you have been using all this while. It's always a better thing to check your plants once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. Check the underneath of the leaves because that's where usually the spider mites, or you can check the stem area, that's where the aphids or the scale insects or the mealybugs tend to hide. So you can always do a routine check. If you happen to notice anything, go for any organic solution that you have been using for your other plants. Now, the most important question, is this plant toxic? Yes, this plant is toxic to dogs and cats. It's not necessarily toxic to humans, but it's always better to be safe. So ensure that you're keeping this plant away from the reach of small children and pets. Apart from that, it's a very simple, very easy to grow plant. If you are a beginner, if you're planning to get into plants, I think this is one of the plant you can add in your collection. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. And if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.